Well, hello, welcome to a new week, new episode of Unscrambled Faith. And I am your host, Megan Hammonds, and I'm so happy to have you here. This specific episode was actually a little bit of an impromptu. I had plans tonight, and I will say, actually, I'll say this first. It's funny how, God always has, firmly believe that God always has a reason for everything. Everything happens for a reason, for sure. And today was actually really great timing because, first and foremost, I did not exactly plan on recording this. I was going to, I did have plans to video chat with a good friend of mine who lives out of state. She and I, life's been lifing, getting in the way right, and we've been kind of going back and forth trying to reschedule and get it figured out. And I ended up actually, so I'm recording on a Friday, so it's early Friday evening right now. And I had every intention on talking with her through Zoom tonight. But life happens and it's okay. And what I love is that when she was like, okay, I hate to do this. Can we reschedule again? Instead of me getting, flustered, worked up, frustrated. She's a mom first. That's so much more important. And I'm going to be honest with y'all. I was like, I have not recorded this week. I think it's almost 2 weeks now. And I've been wanting to record, and I have a very fun but busy weekend ahead. And I've got a friend that's getting married, which I'm so very excited about, on Sunday. So I'll be busy with that, which I'm very excited about. And then tomorrow being Saturday, I'm like, what am I doing tomorrow? Oh, I have, shockingly enough, I will say, for those that know me or have been listening for a little while, y'all know that I love going to the farmer's market. However, this weekend happens to be a weekend that I'm not going to be able to make it to the farmer's market. But that's okay. Once again, I'll pivot going into this next week. But tomorrow I'm actually excited because first thing in the morning, I had met a vendor a while back that does a lot of like homemade granola, like sourdough granola, sourdough bread, those types of things, right? And she lives local, but I'm very excited because every time that I have attempted, and I say attempted lightly, to go out there and pick up things, she has this really cute cart that she puts out like in front of her house. However, I live about maybe, I don't know, give or take like 20, 30 minutes. And I will admit that there's sometimes that I don't want to wake up early enough, but there are other times where I could otherwise have made it out there. But yeah, long story short, things just kept getting in the way. Well, she started doing like pre-orders, and I'm like, sign me up immediately. So that's what I did. I'm picking up my pre-order from her tomorrow. Very, very excited about that. So that's kind of like first thing in the morning. And then I love this place that I go to a lot. If y'all are familiar, if you're listening, or if you're watching this week's podcast and you're in the Houston-ish neighborhood area, and I'm going to give her a shout out. Well, she has more than one location. So Rustic Brush, I'm giving them a shout out. I absolutely love her, love the owner, love the location. I specifically go to the one that's in Pearlands. That's where I'll be tomorrow. However, she has, I believe, another location. Oh gosh, now I'm going to forget. Oh, one in the Galleria, so the Galleria area, and the other one, ooh, I feel like I'm going to get that one wrong. Yeah, I don't want to mess that one up, but look her up. She's on Facebook and Instagram. I definitely know Instagram, but more likely Facebook too. But it's the Rustic Brush. She's amazing. I love her team. Love her. She's amazing. I have a lot of things in my house, my new house that I have created and made and done. And but tomorrow I will be building and painting and doing all the things for a blanket ladder. Yes, I'm one of those people. I love blankets, and I am extremely excited on a weird level about this blanket ladder, specifically because at the old house that I had, we had between my ex-husband and I, we had two other little cats, and they loved to climb. And just for safety reasons, I didn't think it was ever a good idea ever to have a blanket ladder for so many reasons, but I always wanted one. and so, so I was scrolling through all the things that I could have made there, and I Without going too much on my soapbox, I think I've made at least a handful of things with her. I've done in the past year and a half or 2 years, I've done 2 outdoor rugs. I've done, what did I do recently? Now I'm going, oh, I not only built, painted, sanded, stained all the things, the stovetop cover that's in my kitchen. And what else did I do? I know there's one more thing that I'm missing. What else was it? Oh, in my bedroom, it's like oh, what did they call it? It's same thing, like I built it, I stained it, painted it, but there's nails that I hammered into the wood, and it's definitely a craft activity because you pick out your yarn and you weave in and out around the nails that I put in, that I hammered into the wood. You kind of just kind of weave in and out whatever it is, the design that you're creating with the yarn, and it's a cactus, and then I think beside it, it says something like "You're tougher than you think" or something like that. But several projects point to that. Several projects around the house with her business. I love supporting small businesses. Y'all know that. But I love supporting local small businesses. And but I'm very excited. Tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun and double backing, like I said, because I've got my friend's wedding on Sunday that I've very much been looking forward to. And then tomorrow, I mean, what better of a weekend, right? So that's a little recap on that. But like I said, this is kind of an impromptu. I just want to hang out with you guys. And I've missed y'all, I've missed my audience, and I've missed reconnecting with you all. And I hope that so far y'all are having a great summer. Let's see, at this point we are, I think, a month away from, like, maybe half a month, I think, from the summer ending, just depending upon where you live, where where you're listening from. But yeah, but it's definitely been quite the eventful summer thus far, to say the least. One thing that I think that's pretty interesting lately, that's been kind of coming up for me, theme wise, is that in the last couple weeks, the last month or so, I've really thought a lot about, since like post divorce, I really had this notion, like, in my mind, because it's been, let's see, like March, April, May, June, almost 5 months now. Yeah, almost 5 months now since my divorce was finalized. And whenever I was, making all these hard decisions, like, finding another job full time, finding a new place to live, getting out of my old house, all these decisions, right, that I was making, when I finally was able to, find some peace, officially feel moved into my new space, mentally, I put this immense amount of pressure on myself and I just honestly assumed that at a flip of a switch that I was going to get over things. I had this unrealistic timeline that I was putting myself on, that, okay, like, I'm going to be fine. I think I believed that healing in itself had a finish line, and that I thought that if I worked hard enough, that if I prayed hard enough, that if I kept going to therapy, like I ritually still do every Tuesday afternoon, still doing it, that if I could just keep pouring myself into, physically getting better, mentally getting stronger, spiritually getting stronger, that I'd eventually check that box that I had, right? And that, okay, I'm over it now, healing. But here's the reality, is that healing doesn't work like that. Healing not only looks different for everybody, but we absolutely, through grief, through healing, cannot put a timeline. It's just not realistic. It's not realistic. One specific scripture that comes to mind within going through like this time in my life of, realistically realizing that I don't have to put myself on a timeline, that I am strong enough, that I'm mentally, spiritually, physically capable of, taking my days, sometimes like one day at a time, just as I've been the last couple of years with everything else that's come into my life. But one of the scriptures that specifically comes to mind, that really closely connects with where I'm at right now in my life, is Ecclesiastes. And so it's Ecclesiastes, for those of y'all that want to take notes or look into your Bible. If you're like myself, I like underlining the scripture in the Bible and marking the date. But Ecclesiastes, chapter 3, verse 1. There is a time for everything, a season for every activity under the heavens. I mean, if that doesn't fall right into line with everything that's going on in my life right now, I don't know what does. But joy, the overall theme of joy has been popping into my life for quite some time now. Whether it's through conversations, whether it's through songs that I'm coming across, scripture, it just is a really, it's been a word that just keeps, like a theme that just keeps coming up and up in different ways in my life right now. And, for example, I love going to the movies. And that is something that brings me like an immense amount of joy, whether it's a new movie that came out or it's a movie that maybe our local theater is showing for like a limited time. And it just brings me so much joy for multiple reasons. Like, for example, I recently saw the movie The Odyssey. I highly recommend it. Now, don't come for me because I'm one of the few that I will say that I have not read the book, Homer, and this is specifically Homer's Odyssey. Now, as an adult, I for sure, after seeing the movie, I do plan on actually getting the book for myself. But when I was younger, I grew up I was in a school district where, and I don't know if maybe y'all can relate to this or not, but my generation, the school district that I was in, the school that I attended, at the time that I had access to reading the Odyssey, if I chose to do so, we were tested on whatever we read. And then we got like points and grades. And I remember like I loved to read. And I specifically remember like the testing and the points that I was getting, I was doing really well. And I'm even looking back on it now, I'm very surprised at myself that I made this mature decision. I believe, at least I think I did on my own, to not read it, because it's a huge book. If you've never physically seen it before, it's a very intimidating book. It was something that was never introduced to me, but I did see it, I remember, in the library, and it, for whatever reason, caught my attention. But I just realistically was like, okay, I'm not actually going to take the time to read this. And I knew that because of that, I would not pass any kind of test that I would have to take in pertaining to the book. But as an adult, I recently saw the movie. I will toss it out there, just advise you that if you do decide to see it in the theaters, it is about 3 hours long. But I'm going to be honest with y'all, and I promise this is not like the full episode. We're not going to talk about and break down the movie. However, whether you've read the book or not read the book, I will say and preface and say that because I am a huge fan of like cinematography and soundtracks of movies, and just a play-by-play when it comes to like scene work in general, and just everything that's visual that brings that all together within creating and directing a movie in itself, is that I have such a huge appreciation for what took place over the course of that time. And I'll be honest with y'all, I'm not normally one to sit down for that long period of time and have like my full attention and not get distracted and or want to do anything else or get up or look at my phone or whatever the case may be. But I'm going to be honest with y'all. 3 hours went by. I had no idea. I was thinking maybe 2 hours tops. But when I got out of the movies and I got in my car and I saw what time it was, it did not feel like 3 hours. So do with that what you will. But I had a really good time. I loved the movie. The movie was incredible. Funny enough for me, one thing that I enjoy doing, because to know me is to know, and I say this so many times to so many people, is that I love a theme. And let's be honest, I'm probably going to mention this a couple times in this episode. But normally whenever I love getting my nails done. I don't get like a full set. I actually get like the polish, and then I'll get like a design. So these are actually like my natural nails that I have designed, that I got a design on today. But when I do go in and then I get a manicure and I get my nails done, a lot of times, because I really like a theme, I normally come prepared ahead of time. And or normally, like if I have a movie that or a concert or a festival or something I'm going to go see, I normally have like the design and I get it ahead of time of going and doing what I'm doing. Funny enough, this was actually the opposite. I found myself seeing the movie, enjoying it so much, almost forgetting that I had a nail appointment today. No clue what I was going to have done. I'm frankly over summertime. I'm enjoying my summer, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to like summer colors, summer themes, that's not me. I'm a fall person for sure. But I love that I went to ChatGPT, which I call ChatGPT or AI, I call it Sage. So that's my name for that, is Sage, like SAGE. And I went to Sage and I was like, I just saw the movie Odyssey, because you know me so well and you know the color palette and the colors I gravitate more towards, what type of design do you think that I should go for my nails and getting my nails done this week? And I love that it like projected a couple of images, thus like kind of inspired from the movie. And then I just ran with it that way. So it's very unlike me, like to actually like go do something and then be inspired afterwards. It's always usually before that I like the thing, but I digress. That in itself was a lot of fun. But a couple other areas in my life recently where I'm rediscovering joy and redefining what that looks like for me in my life. So for example, today after my nail appointment, I was blessed enough. I actually double backed, and my other appointment that I had a little further out from the area was I had a massage. So I think usually about every 3 or 4 weeks lately, I've been trying to do a massage. Ever since I got my divorce, I really wanted to focus more on my health in a way of working on, I had a lot of bad inflammation, and I don't really, I shouldn't say like since my divorce, because I'm going to be honest, like I know for certain that like my divorce didn't cause the inflammation. I noticed that well over a year ago when I started then experiencing like perimenopause symptoms, that there were a lot of things that were happening to my body. So I carried a lot of like water weight, a lot of water retention. Specifically, I was just swelling up a lot, and so that's where I began doing my journey of looking into lymphatic massages. So that's what I started, I think, around like I want to say like April, maybe like March or April, and I did that for quite some time. And I think that a couple weeks ago was like the last lymphatic massage that I had, and I mixed that in with like cupping, and that was incredible and for sure well needed. But recently I've been wanting to kind of switch it up and do something different. So today I had, I guess they called it like a sports type massage. It was really just like deep tissue for an hour, and I really needed that. And that's something that I'll probably end up doing maybe like every other month or so. But today was incredible. And what I like so much is that even though the place that I went to today, I knew that I was going to see, for one, I was seeing a new massage therapist, but for two, because I was seeing somebody new, I had not been in her room before. And so the therapist that they have at the place that I go to, they have like their own rooms. And then that means that they have like the creative freedom to be able to, decorate and do what they want according to like their personality, in their room. And so I was actually, because I like decorating, because I like designing and themes and all that stuff. I was very much looking forward to like what this person's room looked like. And so what I thought was really awesome was I knew that from the moment I walked into this massage therapist room, that without even like talking to her, getting to know her in conversation, meeting her, I knew right off the bat, like, okay, this is a vibe, we're going to connect. And what I mean by that is there were several details in the room that again brought me joy. From the bedding. So like the bedding, I gravitate more towards, like I'm wearing navy blue right now. So lately I've been wearing a lot and gravitating more towards like burnt orange, like a mustard yellow, like deep shades of blue, specifically like navy nautical type blue. And what I love is I'm not even kidding you, the blanket and the sheets on the massage bed were both like a burnt orange and navy blue. What's the word? Like celestic, like sun moon type pattern on the sheets. It's like as if it was a bed that I made. And I just absolutely loved it. And then I remember like as she and I were talking and getting to know each other, and she was trying to figure out what I needed, what my needs were for the day, for the appointment, I looked around the room and I saw different decor pieces that had sunflowers mixed in. I am a huge fan of sunflowers, if you didn't already know that. And I was like, oh wow, another box checked, that I was like, well, if I could decorate a room, this would probably be what it would look like. And then not to mention how, to kind of like seal the deal. So the earrings that I'm wearing today happen to be a very like celestial type, like looking sun. They're like rose gold colored. And I thought it was very funny, very amusing, because when I looked on the other side of the wall, aside from the sunflowers, there were like these 3 iron-like mirror pieces that had a very similar design like my earrings. So right out of the gate, before I even had the massage in itself was incredible. However, like the room was just honestly just set the vibe. But for me lately, not only like kind of rediscovering and redefining like what brings me joy and finding joy in the everyday moments of my life, but what I really, on top of that, have enjoyed for some time now is capturing those moments through taking photos on my phone of what otherwise brings me joy. Whatever just kind of like gives me that little sparkle in my eye. So like for example, it was the room that I was in. So I took a picture of like the decor and the bedding. Sometimes like it can be like a sunset, or I don't know, maybe like you're out for a walk and you see some beautiful flowers that someone planted, take a picture of the flowers. Or sometimes for me, she's actually right beside me on the other side here, but sometimes it's taking photos of Kirby and I just think, oh, she's having like such a cute moment. And but whatever the case may be, I love being able to capture it through taking photos. And that's even if I choose to share it on social media. But otherwise, I love the idea of saving these moments of these photos that I'm taking pictures of and create an album on my phone and naming it maybe like joy, or put a smiley face or whatever the case may be, and having that steadily ready. So then that way, because I know that the reality is that there are going to be some days that we don't have joy. We maybe can't find joy, or we're not feeling joy in our hearts and our minds. And that's perfectly fine. I think that it could be a lot of times, like I know myself that I on occasion get caught up to where like if I am having like multiple days in a row where I'm having great days and I'm feeling all this immense amount of joy, and then maybe there's a day that feels a little bit more gray, a little bit more cloudy for whatever reason. And I love the idea of being able to just kind of have those photos like in the back of my pocket, right? Like in this album that I can just take out and scroll through and look at whenever I just need a little bit of that joy, no matter what that looks like for me or what that looks like for you. And, not to mention, not only just capturing in different ways on like a weekly basis of like what's bringing me joy, but also a whole nother reason, a whole nother way of how I've been able to kind of re-spark and rekindle the joy in my life is caring for myself physically and emotionally. And I think that one thing that's important for me to make a note of at this point is that recently I have done a lot of self-reflecting in a way of realizing that prior to the life that I live now, prior like last year and then beyond that, there was a big chunk of time that I was not taking care of myself like I find that I'm taking care of myself now. And I think that's really important for me to not only like recognize, but reflect on, you know? And, recently I've been challenging myself more and more to notice the moments that do make my heart smile. And I think that's important too, because I used to, there were several years back where when I was really struggling through a time when I was struggling with depression, that I was having a hard time, like not only getting out of bed, but functioning, doing like the everyday things just to, take care of myself. This is the bare minimum. I remember during that time I had a journal. I kept it beside my bed with a pen. And every so often, if I had a moment of like a memory or something that happened to me during that day, I jotted down real quick, like one, maybe a couple words, maybe a sentence or two, but it was whatever happy moment, whatever joy came to me that day. Because then other times when I was having a week or days upon days of struggling to get out of bed, struggling to brush my teeth, struggling to take a shower, struggling to just meet my basic needs, I otherwise could turn towards that journal. And then it did remind me that there are brighter days ahead, that you have had brighter days before, and that this too shall pass. This is just a temporary thing. And I think that's super important. And so I like how now, instead of me writing it down, I'm bringing it into like the digital space. And because I am getting more and more out of the house and doing more activities on my own outside of the house, then it's giving me more an opportunity to digitally take photos otherwise of what's bringing me joy. And I'm really thoroughly enjoying, doing that. So another thing that has happened to me recently is this last week. One of the businesses that I partner with, we had some training that we did this last week, and typically every year around this time, I normally would fly out and would take off from work for a full week, and I would fly out, and then we'd have training for a couple of days, and that's what I've been doing for like the last 4 or 5 years, being affiliated with this business, and because of everything that I went through and what was happening in my life at the end of last year, there was a lot of like unknown. I couldn't even fathom like thinking back around December of last year what July was going to look like for me. And because of that, not only like mentally, but specifically like financially, and I just didn't know, like, I had all these moving parts, all these things were in the air, right? Didn't know where I was going to move, didn't know if I was going to have a job or not. And so it just didn't make any sense to me didn't make sense at the time for me to invest in, buying the flight, buying the hotel, going out for a week, because there was just so many things that were just unknown, right? So because of that, I had kind of put it out of sight, out of mind, that I was not going to do anything that I normally would do that took place this last week. However, God's perfect timing, because there was about like a month ago that I received an email from the company that I partner with, and they were like, hey, we don't have any room for anyone to necessarily join us in person. However, if you would like to still sign up and watch all the training virtually, we still have that opportunity for you. Hello. I took that as honestly a God moment for sure, especially because now I'm very much in a different place now, mid-July or almost in July, as compared to where I was like at the end of last year, right? And you know what? I firmly believe, once again, just what I said like at the beginning of this episode, that God has a reason for everything and everyone, and timing is everything, like everything. And I knew, and not even I knew, but looking back on this last week and how everything played out, I was supposed to be here for a reason. I watched it virtually for a reason. And what's interesting is, like, the past years when I've been in person and been able to, of course, there are some perks of being in person. Like, for example, I do have friends that live out of state, and we're all affiliated with the same business, right? So whenever we meet up and we do this training throughout the week, obviously I get to see them and I get to catch up with them. And that, unfortunately, was the downfall of not going in person. However, this last week, I noticed that I took a lot of things away from the training, from the guest speakers and the keynote speakers. There was so much that I truly feel like I took away from, like, little nuggets of information that I don't necessarily think that I would have been able to pick up on or pay attention to had I been in person. Because, think about, like, when you go out of town, when you go on vacation, and especially if I'm being gone for like a full week, I'm going somewhere maybe I haven't been before. So of course, what comes with that? Like, you're going out, you're trying new things, you're doing new things. I'm around different people. I'm catching up with friends. There's a whole lot of other things that are like taking place around me, right? Other than just the training, versus staying at home in the comfort of my home. I actually made the decision. I was very, very fortunate, very blessed to be able to take the week off from work. And so that really helped me in a way to be able to solely focus not only on myself, but in my business, and to be able to really pay closer attention to the training and be very present with that, because I really, truly wanted to be like in the mindset of what I otherwise would be doing had I been actually out of state with the training, right? And attending it in person. And I wanted to treat it the same way. And also, it was incredible because my schedule was cleared this last week, because I just solely wanted to focus on the training only. That gave me enough time to be able to work out. So I was very proud of myself, because this was the first time in several years, I'll say it again, several years, that I showed up to How It Works and I worked out, I believe it was 4 days in a row. I want to say 5, but I think it was 4 days in a row. And that alone was huge for me. Like, the consistency, it felt great. And it was just a perfect segue from doing that like mid-afternoon, first thing in the morning, and then having training for the rest of the day. And there were just some takeaways that I had that I think this was the first time in a while that the takeaways, the notes that I took really pertained a lot to my personal life and a lot of things that I've been going through or had gone through. And it was a very, very special experience. And there was one specific night that I was able to spend some time with one of my best friends. She came over, we watched some of the training that way. And like I said, I mean, everything just played out just the way that it needed to be, which I really appreciated. And and I think that like what's important too is to recognize that I felt at peace. Like I was in, in my own company and in my new home and my new space. And another thing that was really great is that it gave me the time to be able to start reaching out to some of the friends that I haven't connected with in some time that live locally in my area, and intentionally reaching out to them, making coffee dates, having conversations with them, catching up with them, and just taking this last week for myself really opened my schedule, right? Because I didn't have anything, I purposely didn't want to plan anything else. I wasn't outside the house for the most part. And so staying at home, I was being able to be a lot more present. And there were things that I was able to think about and focus on that I truly feel like I otherwise would not have taken the time to do so had anything, gone in a different direction. One of the another thing too that I lately have been getting back into and really truly leaning more into is not only, I feel like in the last couple months I've been very intentional with my own life, right? Like being intentional with my spiritual life, physical, mental, right? And aligning with that, I wanted to be more intentional with my customers, with the business that both of my businesses that are very much play a big part of my life. I wanted to make sure that I refocused my attention with my customers and not focusing as much on like my goals or sales or the numbers, but more importantly, focus on the relationship with them and how can I be purposeful with that and present and intentional, because I wanted to align across the board. And for me, it's the way I see it is that if I'm wanting to do all those things like in my own personal life, why would I not want to connect and do that with my business as well? Like I want it, to all align, together, and it just feels right. Um, one thing that I have been getting back into as well recently is, okay, so last year I had a friend of mine, she reached out to me and she's like, hey, I've got this like self-love workbook. I think you'd really like it. I've worked on it. I'm probably going to start it again. Here's the link if you want to, order if you want to do it. Well, I'm always open to, trying new things. And if my friends are making suggestions to me and I'm in the right headspace and I'm like, sure, I'll give it a try. So I went ahead and bought it, got it. This was like maybe the beginning or so of last year, I think. And so I worked on maybe like the first chapter or two. And at that point, I kind of came to like a little bit of a stopping point. And looking back on that, I know that a huge reason why I didn't continue on with that specific book was because a lot of like what was going on in my personal life and in my marriage at the time. And I just didn't have like the energy of the headspace to just keep going. But I'm very, very happy. I'm very proud of myself for not throwing the book away, which is normally very unlike me, because typically if I have something that I'm not interested in, or more importantly, like when I moved from like the old house to my new house now, I would have otherwise honestly just thrown it away because I couldn't remember the last time I opened it up, let alone worked in it. But I was really, really relieved and proud of myself because recently I was looking for another book and I came across it, and I knew that in that moment coming across it this past week that was not by accident. And then what I love so much is that whenever I opened it up and I went specifically to where I'd stopped at, it made a lot more sense to me as to why I stopped where I did. And I love so much that like what I started working on was much more connected into like where I'm at now. And now, once again, I'm in a place where I'm able to be, there's that word again, intentional and purposeful, and really truly be in a different headspace to, start up again with the self-love workbook. Um, and looking back on it, I know that at that time, like again, I wasn't ready for some of the deeper questions that it was wanting me to dive into. And at that moment, like in that time, like I really had to set it aside. But I am just again grateful that I didn't throw it away. And I think it's important to note that like sometimes we're not avoiding the healing. Like I truly feel like for me personally that I was not actually, it's not that I was avoiding the healing because Lord knows that I was very much working on that and then like what that was going to look like going into like the end of last year. But I think that what's more important is that the fact that we're just waiting for like the right season. Like there's a right time again for everything, right? Right time, right place, right season. And obviously God very much was, putting on my heart. I firmly believe now looking back on it that it was like, nope, mentally like I'm going to put a pin in this. I'm not going to continue on doing it and I'm going to put it aside. And I know that it was very much purposeful to where I didn't throw it away at any point because I had almost like a full year that I could have honestly thrown it away. And any other book, any other time, I definitely would have because I do have those spurts, right? Where I lean into my ADHD superpower. And when I get that like burst of energy, I'm like, throw everything away in the junk drawer instead of going through everything individually, right? And so I'm very shocked that that was not one of those things that got thrown away. But I'm also at the same time very thankful that I did not throw it away because I'm really enjoying that right now. And I think that another, like specifically like another verse that comes to mind with, not only like piggybacking on like the theme that's coming up for me right now, like with joy and rediscovering like what that looks like in my life and, finding moments day to day, like what that looks like and, and not only like mentally, but, physically, things that I'm trying out and that I'm doing and rediscovering myself and rediscovering joy and, feeding my soul and making sure that I'm nourishing myself, like, not only mentally, but physically and spiritually as well. And so one specific scripture that really truly kind of like puts a nice little ribbon on that is Psalm chapter 16 verse 11. So it's, you make known to me the path of life, in your presence there is fullness of joy. And again, that's Psalm chapter 16 verse 11. And I think like kind of in conjunction, like when I think about like that specific verse, one of the things that comes to mind is that some days, again, we won't feel joyful. And I think that it's important to, again, bring that home, bring that to our attention, remind ourselves, give ourselves grace, love ourselves, show ourselves some love to be like, okay, today I'm not feeling joyful, but that's perfectly fine. That's okay. And that we don't have to force happiness every single day. We want that to come natural. But at the same time, I've been learning that even on the days when I struggle to find joy, that there are little reminders of God's goodness that if we're willing to notice them, He'll plant the seeds. He'll plant the seeds. And sometimes it could be that we're helping others discover and find joy in their day to day. That maybe if we're struggling to find it for ourselves, it's maybe not exactly about us that day. It could be that maybe God's putting somebody like in our path that we otherwise wouldn't cross paths with, that we're helping them discover their joy. That's something that I take so much pride in with the businesses that I'm affiliated with. Like whether I'm helping somebody find a fragrance that they love, or if I'm putting a basket together for a special occasion, I love being able to bless somebody and bring a little bit of joy into their life, no matter like what that looks like helping, or even if it's somebody that, I've crossed paths with in a business sense with the businesses that I'm affiliated with. I love being able to have the blessing and the opportunity to help them rediscover their joy. And no matter what that looks like. I mean, to me, that is honestly hands down like the most special thing of them all. So this week I want to encourage you. I'm going to give you a little bit of a challenge as we wrap this episode up. And this week I want you to pay attention to one thing each day going into this next week that makes your heart smile. Maybe you mentally take a note of it. Maybe you take a picture of it, save it on your phone, maybe share it on your social media. Maybe share the challenge that I've given you, that I'm encouraging you and challenging you every day to find one moment of joy that speaks to you. It could be maybe the way that the sunlight comes through your window. It could be maybe the way that the stars are looking at night, maybe the sky, maybe you have like a nice little rainbow in the sky, or maybe you spotted your favorite flower out for your walk. Maybe it's a conversation with a friend that you just had, and you're sharing a cup of coffee with them. Maybe it's flowers again that you're passing on your walk, or that you just noticed maybe the decor in the waiting room, or like myself, you're having a little self-care moment, and there's something on the wall that otherwise brought a smile to your face, brought you some joy in your heart. I want you to take a picture if you want. Again, challenge you to take a picture. I absolutely love doing that. But otherwise, write it down, journal it. And above all else, thank God for it. Thank God for all the moments that He brings into your life, into my life, to bring joy, because you never know. Like, if you share this with others, you never know what kind of season, what kind of day that someone else is having. And maybe perhaps you can also in return help them discover their joy as well. But in the meantime, I hope that you unscramble your faith and find clarity in the chaos. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me this week. And until next time, I hope you have a good day.